What do you do when life hits you with challenge after challenge, like cancer, strokes, even a car accident, you name it, keeps hitting you? Many of us would just crumble under the weight. But here's the real question. When life keeps stacking the impossible against you, what can you do to get through? Some people think it's about being strong, having willpower, or gritting your teeth. But are those really the solutions that work? In this episode, we explore the downsides of toughing it out and what you can do that's better and easier. If you want to make lasting change to your behavior and improve your health and well-being, hit like and subscribe to this podcast. We do this every week. So let's get into this. Dr. Teplow, what can I do to make it easier than toughing it out when I just feel like I'm getting hit by a 2x4 over and over and over again in my life?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And in fact, they came up for me recently when a friend got some really bad news. She said, I just have to be strong, everything like I just got to, and she set her, her jaw and kind of,
Gritting the teeth, literally.
oh, yeah, literally. I got to be strong. The shoulders get tight. And I was like, oh, man, that's a really hard way to go through things, especially, if there's a long-term process can be
Like
very
not
hard.
like a short-term ailment or short-term suffering. It's
Yeah.
something long-term or they stack up against you.
Right, exactly. And and so what do you do? And that just it's like, no, you can't, how long can you be strong for before you collapse? And that is the problem with that willpower, your teeth stay strong. That's not human. The human experience, it's very rich. It's very filled with lots of stuff, including hardship and grief and joy and connection. So one thing is to recognize that we are human, and that when you are really living the full spectrum of human experience, that opens up possibility actually to connect with yourself in different ways. And so the question is, we all have to go through hard stuff. Are you going to do it in a way that affirms who you are and shines the light on that best part of you, or the part that's like frozen in time and just gritting it out? So
And so who you are, what do you mean by who you are?
I'm really talking about your sense of values and purpose. So, and what you stand for. So, interestingly, Christopher Reeve, the actor who was paralyzed after his spinal.
Superman.
Yeah, Superman. Right, right,
Superman.
right.
Yeah, yeah. They just did a documentary about him, about his whole journey.
Yeah. He said a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. And it isn't, he talks about strength, but when you think about what he did, he didn't bury his head in the sand. He didn't say, tough it out. I mean, he opened himself up to revealing who he really was in the context of his,
Superman. He was really Superman in real life, and then that's what they named the documentary Superman, because of
yeah.
that. He was showing that value, not just a movie actor or that title, but that was what he was trying to show in his being.
Yeah. And so what were his values? I mean, he had something to live for. And that's the thing. It's not just a matter of grit your teeth, but think, what am I living for? And the grit, the teeth, the willpower, the clench, it's all very confining and constricting. And when you're at your best, you're open, there's more relaxed. Think of innovation, creativity. I mean, that's what gets us through in a way that also affirms who we are and can help us grow. Helen Keller said, although the world is full of suffering, it's also full of overcoming it. And I don't think she grit her teeth. She may have to learn what she did, but
You mentioned innovation and creativity. Why did you mention those two items?
because I think that getting that, for instance, when you're living your values and your sense of purpose, those are enduring. They don't run out. And they are a renewable source of direction, even when you're feeling exhausted. And acting in the service of your values really opens up that part of your brain. Values is about dream and expansiveness. Your values aren't only about getting through it. It's a value like generosity or peace those are really expansive ideas. And so when we think about that, it activates the brain in very different ways.
And gritting it out is really trying to rely on willpower to say, "Oh, I can get through this, and then I just have to make it this far to this point, and I will be okay, or something will happen." But invariably, maybe that doesn't happen in that time period, or you can't even make it there because it's so stressful to have that will to try to stick with willpower the whole time. And like you said, it's not a renewable source.
It isn't, right, and it also just you wear down, there's stress, fatigue, there's pain, and you could talk about, what it does, to your nervous system.
Sure, yeah, it literally constricts your nervous system when you're in that moment, and your brain literally constricts, which then prevents you from having that creativity and imagination because you're literally have shut down parts of your brain to try to tough it out and focus on like that one thing I just got to get through.
Yeah, just get through. It was interesting. I think this pops into my mind that my parents were in the medical field, and we used to go a lot on these country roads and see a lot of accidents, car accidents, and there's nobody out there. My dad used to stop and he would help people. And I remember him, a lot of bloody scenes. And he was just so calm, cool, and collected. And people could be screaming and freaking out and in pain. And he was just he could respond in the moment, but it was just his purpose was to help people. And how he helped them was, first of all, to be calm himself and be very focused on what he had to do. But it wasn't through gritting the teeth. It was knowing who he could be, the service he could provide, and just doing it. So that always stands out in my mind, with the blood and gore and how you do it in a way that has some grace. We work with somebody, a student of ours, who talks about grace. There's a certain human dignity where you are witness to difficult stuff, and yet it's not reactive, it's responsive.
And that grace comes from living and being and doing from your values. That's where the grace comes from.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that came up when you said that too is I think about not just people that have a series of health problems or a series of challenges, but also the caregivers and the people in their lives that are there every day just the same, and that's where willpower can't fuel you forever because you need to have, like you said, your father who took it as his value and his purpose to help others. There's that shift that has to be made for the caregiver too, so they don't get burned out and stressed and fatigued.
Right, right. And I think also part of that stiff upper lip, being strong, gutting it out, is that you also aren't open to your own experience. Like, whoa, I'm getting close to the edge where I'm going to fall off the cliff into burnout. Say, I need to take a break, even if it's just walking around the block, literally smelling the roses or looking at the sky. And so that's also why that stiff upper lip kind of thing doesn't work, because you're closed off from yourself and the reality of what's happening inside you.
Yeah, we just did a lot of videos on self talk, and I think one thing that's important here, and we talk about this, the willpower, and then the stiff upper lip, and then having that stress and fatigue and pain come in, even when you are living from these values and getting that renewable source. Those messages are going to happen. That your brain just brain. So I think that's also important to know, to be kind to yourself, that yeah, you are, even still, it's okay, you're going to feel these emotions, or you're going to have these thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to have the thoughts, you're going to have the emotions. And then, of course, the question is, what are you going to do about it? So, we talk in our upcoming quest about Brett, who was a foremost climber who was paralyzed, I think on El Capitan in
Yeah.
Yosemite, had a, catastrophic fall, paralyzed from the waist down. And she said, I can't change what happened, but I can choose what to do with it. And so she's become a really leading voice advocating for access to the wilderness for, people who can't do it on two legs or
Yeah.
however. So, yeah. I think also when you have that stiff upper lip and that hardness, it's also isolating
Yeah.
because others don't see your real self. You talked about caregivers when it's like, I got it through. Then people don't say, hey, you know, let me take over for an hour so you get a break. Um, I think that's important too, is to let other people see you.
Hmm. And yeah, you're right. So if you're in that, I'm fine, I'm fine, I got this, I'm fine, I got this. That again is not a renewable energy source for this to be sustainable when things are hitting left and right. To be vulnerable, I guess what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, to be vulnerable, and it does being vulnerable doesn't mean that you collapse. Being vulnerable means that you can reveal what's going on and you act on your values. You take action. Um, also, this is a ridiculous story, but anybody who's had kids, I think, or changed diapers will understand
Whoa.
sometimes diapers are really gross, You do it. How do you get through it? That's a little different than having the stiff upper lip, but it's like a slice in time. You do it because you care about the person. You take the valued action.
Right.
Uh, and I think there are things that you can tell yourself
Yeah.
also.
Let's get into
Um,
some of the doing.
right. And so, so that stiff upper lip, you can ask yourself, instead of holding everything in and feeling like and ending the day like short, stomach hurts because it's so, you're like this, or you have a headache, or the shoulders are so tight because you're holding it in. And ask yourself, what difference would it make? Instead of holding everything in, I allowed myself to live in the full richness of being human, even in the pain.
Hmm.
What difference would that make if I really embrace the fullness of the human experience? How would
Hmm.
that how would that be better for me?
I like that is you're looking at the you mentioned this begin at the beginning of the podcast, is that you're looking at the human experience of us living through this as part pain as part of the human experience. And if you are open to the full human experience of life, then yes, pain is going to be pain is going to be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. And there's, that it doesn't get talked enough. This is one thing that isn't talked enough about, which is post traumatic growth. What happens? And I think with Quinn Britt that we mentioned, Helen Keller, Christopher Reeves,
Free.
all of those people are great examples of post traumatic growth. And I don't want to, trauma is now popularized, it's fatty, but I'm talking about, post catastrophe growth. What do you do? And how does it help? Because there are some very clear benefits that can come out of surviving a catastrophe and dealing with that in a way that does affirm you.
I think that comes up a lot when you think about how people responded to COVID. I mean, obviously there's some serious ailments that came along with it, but for the vast majority who had it or experienced it, that, it's not a forever life thing. But how did you come out of this? That whole not just the sickness experience, but the um, pandemic experience of it. How did people come out of that? And yeah, I think the ones that come out with that post traumatic growth, you can see that was something that was much more healthy for them.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't mean that they wanted their suffering or that it was good for them, but
Nobody wanted it.
yeah, they wouldn't want to wish it on anyone, but it reflects a shift in perspective that really enriches life afterward. For one, they get to reorder priorities. I mean,
And
it's
that
not
was
that they get to, they had to. Like who really counts? What
yeah,
really counts in my life?
and that really came out of that experience. Lots of people like did changes to their life because they said, "Oh, actually, this is a big. I don't have that much time. This is part of the human experience. What else do I want to do? What's important?"
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, what's important to me? And so that's if I really think hard, what if I only have a a limited amount of time, what do I really want to do? And who do I want to be seen as? Who do I want to be remembered as? That's one thing. Other, I think, I don't want to call it, well, benefits, things that are good that come out of it is a greater
cool.
appreciation for life. You know, People who survive bad stuff report and describe a greater sense of gratitude for just simple things, a hot cup of coffee or time with family. They don't take things for granted.
Yeah, the that's really looking at what comes out of it. That's That's good. And it's all the silver lining, I guess.
Yeah, right, right. The silver lining. Yeah, it's an unintended consequence, but it's a good consequence.
Yeah, I've like there's been story. I have no stories. I can't think of anyone specifically, but I know that I've heard this story before that people come out of very hard illnesses on the other side of it, and they are so much more appreciative of life. And yeah, they don't want to go through that, but I've heard many times where they said, would you want to change that? And many say no, because this what I got out of this was something much deeper than could have ever gotten out without it.
Yeah, I love this. I encourage anyone who's listening to this to do this experiment. Think about the very first love you had, um, and, as if it didn't turn into the long-term relationship and still ongoing in your life right now, think about that first love you had, and would you not have wanted it to happen?
Even
I
though it's
was in
painful.
Yeah, right, right, even though it was painful, either painful for you or yeah. And I was the first time I heard this little exercise, I was in a group of hundreds of people, and the, speaker said, "Yeah, raise your hand if you would not want to have had that experience." Nobody's hand went up. Was it painful? Everybody's hand went up. Would you have not wanted to live that, have that experience? Everybody's hand went down.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, another thing I think that comes out of this, like this post, hard stuff is that what at one time seemed impossible can reshape your sense of yourself because you discover your capacity to take on hard things, your resilience, your courage, adaptability that you didn't know. And then that creates a sense of empowerment that you can carry into all other parts of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to that being able to really get that deeper sense of agency in your life. And that's why many people say, no, it wasn't great. I don't want to do it again, but I wouldn't have changed it because where I'm
Right.
at now.
Yeah. I mean, even if you do your daily runs or what about you, Glenn, are you getting up earlier than 5 to do a 5 a.m.?
Yeah. 5:30 is the run, but 5 a.m. Yeah. Run. Yeah. Don't like it. But, every day, that's, part of this thing I realize if I don't do it, in the day later, I'm like, I'm just missing that little bit of extra, um, confidence that I had or resilience that I had that I was able to achieve by doing that. And that carries over through the rest of the day. And the absence of it is when I notice it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And also hard stuff can introduce us to new communities. We make new lasting
Mm.
connections with people and you have a sense of solidarity with others. And then I think one big silver lining is becoming more compassionate.
Yeah, I think about my mother and who had breast cancer. They have the groups that you get involved with are full of amazing people, and those are great communities that you get involved with that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you get to be seen as a different you're a different person, and you get to show yourself to the world and be recognized in that new way you are, in
Yeah,
a way presumably, the more resilient, the courageous, the more adaptable.
yeah, it's a fresh start effect. Fresh start
Yeah,
being able to have it. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, excellent. Any final words you want to leave with everyone that really helps to change this thinking around when you do get hit multiple times with things, or even if it's just one thing that's just really hard, how to get through it.
Yeah, I think that we can change ourselves. We know from people who've experienced really bad stuff. They've gotten through it and managed to find meaning. So it's not all about chasing happiness and the smiley face, but it's meaning that affirms who you are, what your purpose is, and what you stand for.
Well, that's a fantastic place for us to wrap up. If today's episode resonated with you, and if you're ready to move beyond willpower that we were talking about and align your healthy behavior change with your identity and your values, we invite you to join us inside Stamina Lab. Whether it's through our core health group coaching program or our next 14-day health quest, we're here to help you become the person you're already on the path to being by just listening to this. And subscribe so you continue to listen to this and share it with somebody as well. That's a great way to spread the health and well-being that you're getting from this podcast. And if you want to learn more about our unique solution-focused approach, book a complimentary coaching session, visit staminalab.io. We've got some great quizzes down below that can help you with your stress and self-talk. So check those out and also leave some questions or comments. We'd love to answer those. Thank you, Dr. Teplow.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, remember, you are your own lab, you are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach. Be well.